Well, ladies and gentlemen, it has happened. I knew this was going to happen sooner or later, that the call for reparations and the call for something tangible, some policy that you're going to put on your website to get the black vote, that has been a message that's been a great problem just for the status quo in America. Understand something. Everything that they have, quote unquote, allowed us to do, they feel that we should just be grateful for that. We should just be grateful for having the right to vote in this country. But yet we see others that vote. We see others get things out the deal. But yet when it comes to black folks, we don't supposed to do that. We should just be happy that we can vote and be a part of the process. The call for reparations is a debt that's owed. It is not a handout. It is not a program that we're asking for. It is restitution for not only for slavery, but for Jim Crow, but for redlining, discrimination with the GI Bill, the mass incarceration of mostly black people, crime bill that was created to discriminate against people that were sick in the black community, and so forth and so on. All the extrajudicial killings of black people, the sabotage, the burning down of black businesses, the bombing of black churches, the lynchings of black people. I'm talking all after slavery here, not just during chattel slavery. So we are actually getting on code. And you have seen who have exposed themselves as people who are agents of white supremacy. One of the biggest ones who have revealed themselves as of recent is Roly-Poly Martin. Roly-Poly Martin is on a tirade right now because I really feel that he feels his position is on life support right now. And if a Democrat does not get in the president's seat, he's done. He's completely done. He's acting like a person that's on their last leg. He's attacking black people. He's using white supremacist attacks against black people. Understand something with Roly-Poly Martin before I go into this article. Roly-Poly Martin, every time a black person is finally speaking up politically about their future and the future for their children when they're not here anymore, just like every other group speaks up about their community, right? Because you don't toe the line what Roly-Poly says to maintain the status quo. What's the first thing that Roly-Poly tell black people? You're dumb. You're dumb. I mean, he sounds so feminine when he said it too. I mean, he sounds like a little girl. He's using the same thing a white supremacist would say. You have a low IQ. You get that? He refers to black people constantly as dumb when they're telling them how they feel. Now, have you ever seen any white pundits tell a white voter that they're dumb for questioning a policy, that they're dumb because they have an opinion on something? No, you don't see white pundits telling white people they're dumb. But when it comes to Roly-Poly Martin, he would get on TV and call black people dumb, asinine. He talks real down to black folks because Roly-Poly Martin has this talented 10th mentality. OK, he is one of these Negroes that are in with white supremacy, and he has a position. And see, as long as black people are oppressed and don't have nothing, he's going to have a position. And when black people are finally standing up and the people are finally saying, hey, wait a minute, we're not going to sit up here and just keep voting and not getting anything. Oh, wait a minute. Roly-Poly, he's on his last leg, so you got to fight. Because Roly-Poly don't want no freedom now. He don't want that. He know where his biscuit is buttered, and it's buttered with them folks. I was reading a comment from Roly-Poly. He said that he was so, nervous and afraid to when he stepped out on his own, because Roly-Poly has been trained by the system, and that's what he want to be. He don't want to do no Roly-Poly Unfiltered. He wants to be on MSNBC. He'll take a CNN job if they offer it to him. He don't want to be doing no Roly-Poly Unfiltered. Look how he come even dressed to do his show. I mean, there was a show that Roly-Poly had his shorts on and all that. Not even respected his own show. His guest was dressed better than him. Come on, man. You know good well you was trained to dress a certain way. But, Roly-Poly, we going to have to deal with Roly-Poly as a collective because he done got way too out of pocket. He's sounding like a little white supremacist running around attacking black folks. And then roly-poly, he has become that old dude. You know what I mean? Well, for 20 years, I've been doing this and that and the third. And I was a part of this. I was talking about reparations before y'all. And guess what? You didn't make nothing happen, roly-poly. You make nothing happen. You should be embarrassed to say you've been talking about something 20 years and you didn't do nothing out of it. Talking about you ran this magazine, that magazine. And where's it at today? How many black people have you employed with those magazines? Roly-poly, you're a failure. And that's why you're mad. But let me continue with that. I had to just do my little tirade on roly-poly. We got to start checking roly-poly for real. Because now he didn't get out of pocket. He run around here calling black people dumb for speaking up for themselves. No, y'all got to check him on that mess. But as we look at this particular article here, now we knew it was coming. And we're going to look at the language here. And I'm going to give, my opinion of this because I agree with a lot of the premise of what the ADOS movement is doing. It's just one portion of it I don't agree with, but that's fine. I don't have to agree with everything. Just the main call for reparations, the main call for respecting us as our own group of people. I believe we should have that. And also paying what they owe, which is the U.S. government paying the reparations. I agree with that as well. But let's go down and let me analyze the tactics they're using in here, okay? So they talk about what Donald Trump Jr. shared a right-wing provocateur tweet saying Senator Kamala Harris is not an American black. It provoked a series of angry responses from Democratic presidential candidates who denounced what they call the racist and birther-style attack. First and foremost, they don't care about Kamala Harris and any kind of quote unquote blackness. They do not. They only care about it as a political strategy to get into the White House to sucker the black vote. I seen videos where this woman was proudly saying that she was an Indian American. She didn't say I'm a black Indian American. She said she was an Indian American. Yes, it was on India TV, but she still could have said, yes, I'm a proud black Indian American. She could have said that and I would have had no problem with that. But continuing, it said, but the president's son was actually seizing on and amplifying the strain of argument made by a small group of liberal black activists. They say calling Harris African American when her parents were born in Jamaica and India effectively erases the history of most black people in this country, whose ancestors were American slaves and who suffered for generations as a result. Now, let me tell you how her parent being Jamaican could actually tie in to with us here in America. See, if Kamala was really on being Jamaican, then she would say, you know what? My ancestors was enslaved too. And I can relate to black Americans because we have the same story. My ancestors were dropped off in Jamaica almost. So, you know what I'm saying? Y'all was dropped off on this side, but we suffered the same atrocities, the same horror. We are the same people. Yes, I may not be a black American, so to speak, but we have the same story. And yes, I'm going to fight for reparations because we have the same story. See, if Kamala would have came out like that, nobody wouldn't question anything. But see, Kamala and everyone like her dance around that question because they know they're not stupid. Kamala isn't stupid. Kamala knows that if I go push black too hard, I'm going to scare these white folks. Let's call it what it is. I'm going to scare them. So I can't push black too much in front of them. I got a bad, listen, let me tell you something. They got people with two black parents that don't want to push black too hard in front of them. Let's not even just talk about Kamala Harris, because you have a lot of afraid black folks in politics that is scared to say black American, African American. They all people of color, minority. And you know good and well that is a trick. We learn that now it's a trick, because when you say people of color, it doesn't include us. And if it do include us, we're at the bottom of people of color. We're at the bottom of minority. Let me tell you, the top minority is white women. I'll repeat that again. The top minority is white women. How do we compete with that as black people when white women is the top minority? They benefit from the system that's here, and they're getting benefits that was supposed to be for us. White women is. So how do we compete with that? So when you say minorities, you're talking about white women. Understand that white women is the biggest benefactor of affirmative action. Now, they'll complain and want to go to court over it, but they benefit more than anybody else. Affirmative action was originally for Black Americans and nobody else. And they changed that. Understand that. So continuing, they did a quote here from Antonio Moore, which says, you don't voluntarily immigrate into a community that's supposedly segregated and then claim the struggles of people who have been here chained to chattel slavery for multiple generations. One of the activists, Antonio Moore, said on his online radio show, Kamala Harris does not have a black agenda. Now, understand something. These people listen to everything we say. You better believe they do. They listen to your podcast. They listen to your radio show. They listen to your news reports. They listen to anything that you have going on. Don't you think they're not listening? You don't believe me? Check your YouTube analytics. Start looking at really who is watching your content. You'd be surprised who's watching your content. I know who's watching mine. Trust me, I know. I'm always checking. Now I said Moore is a leader. Hold on, listen to the language here. Moore is a leader of a tiny but outspoken movement called American Descendants of Slavery, or ADOS. Let's stop right there. You're going to write a whole piece about a tiny but outspoken movement, okay? When someone, basically what they're saying is they're insignificant. So if they're so insignificant, why did you take the time to do this article? Why did you take the time? And matter of fact, not one of y'all, two of y'all is on this article, as we can see here. But they're tiny. This is what they do. So the system, they try to use language to minimize. Oh, they're nothing. They're this. But it's the reverse, okay? I always told you this. If they're breathing, they're lying, okay? If they tell you they're tiny, to them, they're big. And now we better talk about them in the Washington Post. Understand? I knew it was coming. I already seen it coming with them because it was being a little too effective in that messaging. You know, when they seen, you know, the HR 40 and they seen people with these ADOS shirts, you know, when they seen the videos that run up on Jim Clyburn, run up on Elizabeth Warren and catching them saying comments, and we could really use that and show them how the people, how they really feel about reparations and how they really feel about us as Black Americans, then they're not liking that because they fear, and this, we're going to continue reading, you'll see the fear in this. They fear that that messaging is going to stop them from beating Donald Trump. So they say, now the ADOS, which has been rallying Democratic strategists and enraging some liberal Black leaders by calling for a reimagining a Black identity that replaces skin color with historic lineage as the defining characteristic. Let me tell you what that does, okay? When we came over, when transatlantic slave trade happened, slavery happened, they are the one that use skin color to define us. When you're taking away what they use to define you and you take it to lineage, you're literally taking the power away to identify you. When white supremacy colonized, they named everything, they said what it was, and that was part of power. So they don't like the fact that you're renaming yourself and you're saying you're not going to identify me by no color no more. I'm going to be identified by a lineage. See, you're changing the language. Like Dr. King said, you got to change the language. They're not liking that. Pay attention to that. Now it says that they have been rattled. They have been rattled because they don't have a counter to it. But see, they don't have a counter to it because they know you're right. See, when it comes to truth, you can't battle it. So you have to come up with the lie. So it said descendants of American slaves, they say, should not be seen as a broader group like people of color or minorities because their historical situation is completely different. That is correct. They said that argument is now shaping up as an attack on Harris. Wrong. That messaging had nothing to do with Kamala Harris. That is a lie. They're saying is lineage wise, she was born of a Jamaican father and an Indian mother, which means that she do not have the lineage of Black Americans that they have here in America. That's what they're saying. That's not a lie. That's not an attack. That's the truth. Now, Kamala could say, yeah, you're right about that, but this is how we connect with each other as part of those in the diaspora. See, Kamala could have connected that a long time ago, but she don't want to, and we talked about that earlier. So whose candidate surged after she challenged former Vice President Joe Biden on racial issues, repositioning herself as a candidate who speaks directly to the experience of African Americans. Well, busing is not an experience we deal with today, as of right now. That was one time. And then she would have been talking about police brutality. If she'd been talking about policies, how she's going to put laws on the books to lock up police officers that kill citizens unarmed, that would be addressing things we deal with today. You know what I mean? That was one thing she could deal with right off the back that would make a whole lot of things better, right? So it's a Democratic strategist. Look at this paragraph here. Fear, listen to the word they use, fear. They admit they have a fear, ladies and gentlemen, fear. That the dynamic of mischief makers, oh Lord, now y'all mischief makers. In other words, like back in the day, you know, used to call black people that wanted to fight for justice and freedom troublemakers. So now y'all call mischief makers, but now y'all being some troublemakers. That language is still the same, isn't it? It's just talking about it in 2019. You're being a troublemaker. Gonna be a troublemaker now. They're gonna get mad at you. You know what I'm saying? So they fear that the dynamic of mischief makers on the right exacerbate minor divisions on the left. Now, it has nothing to do with the right. Stop putting it on the right. The right has nothing to do with this conversation. You're lying on the right. This has nothing to do with that. Okay? Minor divisions on the left could not only damage particular candidates, but also dampen overall Democratic turnout in 2020. How could them asking for something tangible, how could them asking for reparations damage a candidate unless that candidate says, I'm not giving anything? See, you know the message is no reparations, no vote. You know that. All the people who listen and know that message. And you worrying about the turnout. You understand what I'm saying? Look, nobody telling white people they can't go vote. Nobody telling Asians they can't go vote or any other group they can't go vote. Let them go vote. But see, the fact is you want black people sitting on the sideline watching everybody else get addressed and we don't get addressed. And we should just be happy just to be sitting on the bench. Because that's what you want. You want bench warmers. We have been the perpetual bench warmer forever. Now we are saying we're not going to be on your team no more unless we in the game. That's what we saying today. And if we're not going to be in the game, we checking out. We heading to the showers. We going home. That's what we doing. And you're mad about that. You want your perpetual bench warmers while we watching every group come leapfrog in front of us. We've been here for hundreds of years fighting ungodly terrorism in this country to us. The most ungodly treatment known to man, and we got to sit here and watch people come in identifying themselves off of what they do in the bedroom and everything else, and they leapfrog over us, and we still got to sit there, watch it, smile about it. We have to support it. And if we say anything about, hey, how is people leapfrogging over us, then we're called names by the same party that want us to go vote for them. You are the biggest name callers ever. You call people a hater, you call people bigot, homophobe. All you do is name call. Don't we teach children not to name call? And that's all you do when somebody have an opinion about something. Now, they said a similar strategy was adopted in 2016 by Russia. Let me tell you this Russia situation. Back in the time of the civil rights movement, they pulled the same card, Russia, communism, right? Just know your history. So they say, oh, Dr. King, he's a communist and he's funded by the Russians. They always been blaming the Russians with black folks forever. So know your history. This is nothing new. Which exploit divisions on issues such as race and guns to hurt Democrats by starting Facebook groups with names like Blacktivists, Black Matters US, and Don't Shoot Us. Now, you know why Russians could do that? Because you won't deal with your racism. That's why. See, Russians know that the Democrats is no different than the Republicans. At least the Republicans are from their racism and white supremacy. You try to hide yours. That's the thing. You try. And you're being exposed with reparations. And you don't know what to do. Let's say ADOS frames his argument in terms of who should receive reparations for slavery, saying payments should go only to actual descendants of slaves. But the underlying message is that Black Americans from immigrant families, even places like Jamaica with a history of slavery under Spanish and British rule, do not have the same claim to their identity or the struggle of civil rights. Okay, you just made the argument for them. You just said that Jamaica had slavery under the Spanish and British. So how is it that the American government is responsible for paying reparations to slavery for people that did not be enslaved here? Now, you can have another argument to say, well, but they came here, they went through Jim Crow, they went through this, they went through that. Okay, well, that means, and this is what I would say, that means you need to receive a reduced payment if they pay a reparation based on slavery and what else happened. If your family dealt with the rest of it after Reconstruction, I think it should be a payment for that. But the full payment with reparation with slavery, then no, you can't have a slavery part. I mean, because you wasn't an ancestor of that. I mean, I'm willing to go that far with it, because if you've been here, since Reconstruction, and your family been here hundreds and hundreds of years, for a long time, right? And you went through everything with us, you still fighting to this day, I have no problem with you getting something. I really don't. But you just can't have the slavery part. It should be a reduced payment. Now, some people may not agree with that, but I'm just thinking, just what I feel what's right and what's wrong. That's how I look at that, because it's kind of hard to tell somebody, let's say they came from Haiti in the 1900s, and they were going through the same hell we were going through, living in the same neighborhoods and fighting the civil rights movement. They family been here forever, right? Then I think they should get a portion, but not the full when it comes to the slavery aspect. I'm just saying, that's just me. That's just my opinion. I know some people may not agree with my opinion, but that's just my opinion on that. Because, suffering for terrorism, you got to, compensate for that. Now, they say other civil rights leaders, and they keep saying leaders. No one's a leader. Antonio Moore says he's not a leader. Yvette Carnell says they're not leaders. See, they use the term leader because that goes all the way back to slavery, right? They got to identify a Black person as a leader, right? Because if they can put the term leader on you, then they can easy to go after you because you're a leader. So the key is when people say, oh, you're a leader. No, I'm not a leader. I don't lead nobody but myself. I'm part of a community. That's it. I'm part of the Black community. I'm no leader. I just agree that the American government do owe this. I do agree that Black people need policies that's directed at us, not people of color, not minorities, us. And if you're not prepared to give us that, then our community is going to just kind of step back and let you guys have it. When it comes to the political process, we're going to just go hit the showers, as I said earlier, right? Now, they stated that here, that responded Blacks not descended from slaves have also faced often brutal racism and discrimination in the United States, which you're admitting that. Now, you're talking about Harris the bus to school as a young child as part of the push for segregation. Now, they say, although ADOS is a small group, pay attention, they said this twice. They call them tiny the first time. Now they call them a small group. They're big to them, and they're a large group. Understand? They're using this terminology to tell the reader in their mind, oh, they just, ain't nobody. But yet you took the time to write about them. The attention has permeated into a broader conversation in many Black communities in recent years. Barack Obama counted it in the 2008 run for president. It had nothing to do with Black folks, so I don't know what you're talking about there. As they when faced with a question regarding her authenticity in a radio appearance in February, Harris responded that such rigid distinctions misunderstand the beauty and diversity of the Black community. I was born Black, I'll die Black, and I'm proud of it. Harris said in an interview on The Breakfast Club at an urban radio show with a large Black audience. Now, when they use the term urban, we need to get rid of those terms too, because the term urban means Black. Why can't it just be a radio show? Why has to be an urban radio show? So we need to start rejecting a whole lot more terms to just minority and people of color. And it continues to say, I am not going to make any excuses for it for anybody because they don't understand. I say she announced on Saturday a $100 billion plan to counter the legacy of redlining, which made it harder for Blacks to get home mortgages. They say the plan would provide assistance with down payments and closing costs for home buyers. Assistance would be targeted by income and geography, not race or lineage. Okay. So that doesn't mean it's for black people. Listen what they saying. It's targeted about income and geography, not race and lineage. Kamala, black people were redlined. It's black people. So Kamala still didn't want to say that. You reading what they're saying here. See how they, but this is the same woman that said.
So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No.
But she don't say that about, anybody else. But the tweet by Trump Jr. on June 27, which later he deleted, is the highest profile Republican embrace of the ADOS line, but far from the only one. In recent months, anonymous posts on 4chan message boards frequently about Trump supporters have encouraged the creation of ADOS memes. Conservative communists and culture tweeted, "I like ADOS," while suggesting the movement should change its name to DOAS for descendants of American slaves. They say the idea of reparations for slavery has been gaining more attention recently, though it means different things to different people. Some say African Americans should get direct government payments to compensate for the horrors of slavery. Others propose expanded social programs, debt forgiveness, and similar actions. In arguing that only descendants of slaves should get reparations, ADOS has some prominent defenders. William A. Darity Jr., professor of public policy at Duke University, who has extensively studied income and asset inequality, has praised the movement for elevating demands for reparations and for pressuring the Democratic Party. He co-wrote a recent study about the Los Angeles area that found the median wealth of a white household was $355,000 compared to $72,000 for recent immigrant Africans and $4,000 for American-born black people. Now, Candace Owens recently was talking about, black immigrants do a lot better than black Americans. And people need to tell the truth about that. First and foremost, black immigrants could not even come to this country without the sacrifice and the blood and tears of black Americans here. They wouldn't let them in here. That's first and foremost. Second of all, because they have the opportunity to come in here, and yes, we have fought for them to come in here as well, a lot of them come over here, and I'm talking about especially some from, some African nations. Some come from well-to-do families, and some of them come already educated, okay? And as they already educated, let's say if you got your nursing in Nigeria, right? But you had to come over here to America and get your nursing. Well, if you already went through nursing, it'll be a cakewalk for you to go through college again and get your nursing. So then you get your nursing, you get right back on your feet. You do very, very well, in this country. You really would. But, immigrants into this country don't have the same story. Some of them are leaving oppression that's caused by black people. Let's talk about that. Let's say if someone came from Cameroon, Paul Biya is waging hell on his people in Cameroon. So when they come over here from Cameroon, they're like, man, I can actually breathe. I'm trying to get it how I live, man. And they may say, I don't see how y'all don't get it, man. Y'all been over here. Y'all don't have the issues and problems that we had over there with the soldiers raping and doing this. And we like, well, hold on. We've been dealing with these people for hundreds of years. What you talking about? So, I feel that we shouldn't be looking down on each other, but talking to each other and trying to understand each other's position and story, because I just don't like that much that happens. But the shucking and jiving, no matter if it comes from an immigrant or ADOS, then that needs to be called out, because I don't like that from nobody, okay? So they say a lot of people started jumping out and saying that this is a xenophobic or nativist, and I don't see this at all as a claim that is hostile to other communities. Darity said there are people who perceive it as hostile because it breaks with the notion there is a complete homogeneity among the black community. Now, I'm going to say this. This is what I'm going to say. This is me. I'm just speaking for myself. That is the crack in ADOS's armor. They're going to push that ADOS is xenophobic. They're gonna use that and try to ride that, and they're gonna try to label Antonio and Yvette as xenophobic and bigoted. So what I would say, this is what I would say. This is my opinion. This is me. When it comes to the black immigrants, and I get why they're saying what they're saying. Basically, you have some black immigrants that came in. They're basically shucking and jiving, and they want their butter biscuits, right? But as I stated before, you got ADOS doing that. Look at Jesse Lee Peterson. Just give an example, right? Y'all know I've talked to interviewed Jesse Lee. Jesse Lee, he's open with his shucking and jiving, right? He is ADOS. So we got that right here. We don't have to talk about anybody else coming over. My thing is we should have a policy where we check all of them, not just some of them, all of them. Okay. Now, I think the focus should be more on the reparations. The focus should be more on making things right with us. And, the situation with, the immigrant situation, I just see that as just with the conversation that's happening. To me, it's just a bunch of shucking and jiving going on. And y'all calling that out, but y'all calling it out based off of where people are from. And I can say this. I know people who are immigrants that ride with us, that ride with me, that ride with against racism and white supremacy. That are African, that are Caribbean, that are Afro-Latino. Not every person is out here on that. You understand what I'm saying? They're not on that like that. My thing is we got to stop treating our people like the racists would treat us. You know how one black person do something so they say all black people that way? Well, we got to stop doing that crap. Just because one person from St. Lucia or St. Thomas, Candace Owens, is sitting up here shucking and jiving for these folks, we going to indict the whole Caribbean because of what she done or a few of them done? Come on now. We acting like these racist white folks with that. That's the thing that I have with that. My thing is the message is right. The message is right even with the lineage part. Keep that message. I'm with you 100%. But if y'all don't, and I'm not saying Yvette and Tone is so bad with it, but some people that follow them are so, out of line with that. I'm like, come on, bro. I mean, like y'all just focus on the message. You attacking too much on what I think is small things. Check the shucking and jiving. Keep doing it. But I think you're more effective when you run up on them politicians and say, hey, what's up with these reparations? That's more powerful. Calling this stuff out every time you see it about why we need reparations, that's powerful. Because if we just infight all day as black people, we're not going to get anything. And they're going to love that. All they're going to do is magnify that infighting. They love this. And you're going to see this actually in this article. Stress that people not descended from slaves like Harris or former President Barack Obama are just fit to be political leaders of the black community. He also praised candidates like spiritual leaders Marianne Williamson and former Housing Secretary Julian Castro, who both defend the idea of reparation in practice. However, discussion about lineage often becomes deeply personal. Now, here we go. Roly-poly. It's a black author and former CNN commentator who hosts an online news show dismissed the effort to impose a black purity test as nothing but self-hate cloaked in black self-love. See, they're using roly-poly's words. As the MSNBC host Joy-Ann Reid describes the movement as the black blood and soil thing that is happening online, referring to the Nazis' blood and soil racial purity slogan. Now, Joy Reid, that comment is going way too far. This is nothing but a discussion. These folks talking about blood and soil. You saw what happened in Charlottesville. Come on, Joy. See, now things like that has to be called out. Joy Reid needs to be called out for those comments because there will be no way they will allow a white anchor to be talking about white folks that way. They don't hardly even let them talk about racists that way. That's white. See, that's the thing that we have to start calling out. Roland Martin, he has to be checked. I keep saying that. And say the leaders, they keep, pay attention. They keep using the word leaders. So when you're reading this article, they want you to keep thinking the word leader, tiny, small. Like listen to the words they keep repeating. This is propaganda, complete propaganda. Okay. Got to pay attention to the repetitive words they're using. The leaders of the ADOS movement have adopted controversial policies, further complicating the debate. Moore, for example, has questioned whether slave descendants should date black immigrants, and he has made a point of noting that some of his critics, like Reid, are also descended from African immigrants. Well, yes, her people from the Congo. Now, if he did say that, that's his personal opinion. So what? I mean, the only thing his opinion goes with is just with him. I mean, people date who they want to date. Why you want to act like that's so important what he said? As in a recent online video, he criticized a CBS News reporter about Harris's background by saying that the network's campaign team has no ADOS reporters, and the report came from a journalist with a Hispanic surname who clearly has conflicted interest to write the story. Well, I mean, let's look at let's call it what it is. It's hardly any black people, period, on TV. And the ones that are on TV better toe the line. They better not come up there rah-rahing for black people. So I would say that much. I said Moore's partner in leading ADOS. See, they use the word leading. Pay attention to that, ladies and gentlemen. Leading. They want you to keep saying the word leaders. So the white media is trying to crown Antonio Moore and Yvette Carnell a leader. And said former aide to Senator Barbara Boxer and Representative Marion Barry was previously aboard on the Progressives for Immigration Reform, which has ties to right-wing immigration groups. The group argues that current immigration rates threaten the livelihoods of unskilled American-born workers, echoing concerns in some parts of the broader black community that immigrants in the country illegally can compete for jobs with African Americans. Well, I mean, that's something that's actually proven statistically. I mean, what could you say with that, right? There's sometimes ADOS leaders, there we go. Listen to the words, ladies and gentlemen. Keep using the word leaders. Or imitate the tropes of Republican operatives to drive home their argument that Democrats have not always stood by them. Okay, let's ask that question. Have Democrats stood by the black community in the past 50 years? I mean, can someone tell me how the Democratic Party has stood by black people specifically in the past 50 to 60 years? Because I can't think of anything that they're done. But I sure can remember that crime bill that Joe Biden written that locked up a lot of black people. Black people are still locked up to this day. But, you know, when white people have opioids, it's a sickness. There's no crime bill for them. Well, when black people had a sickness with crack, let's lock them up. Let's keep them away from my mother. I don't care what happens to them as long as they're in jail. That's what Joe Biden said. He authored that crime bill. Understand? Continuing. They said Carnell once wore a Make America Great Again hat in the video, later saying it was a joke. The ADOS website maintained by Carnell Moore says the data support Trump's assertion that black voters have nothing to lose by seeking an alternative to the Democratic Party. Okay. Well, what do the black community have to gain? I'll just have to ask that question. Are you going to explain to me what black people have to gain? Because last time did you guys watch the debate? Did you watch the debate? They didn't mention black people. So if you don't even mention black people at all, and then Marianne Williamson brought up reparations, y'all quickly hurry up and shushed her up with that. Y'all didn't want to talk about anything with black people. Well, a lot of y'all had your Duolingo on. I'll tell you that much. So we already know what you own, Democratic Party. So what do black people have to gain? My thing is, and what I always told black people, that black vote is for sale. If it's a Democrat that's going to give us what we want, vote for them. If a Republican going to give us what they want, vote for them. If an independent, don't matter, vote for them. Our vote is up for sale. I don't like the fact that we're saying that now and that you don't have a lock on the black vote. Now, they said Carnell Moore attacked prominent liberals who have advocated a public study for the reparations issue, including author Ta-Nehisi Coates. So you're speaking against someone talking about a study that's attacking them? I mean, listen to the words they're using, attack. I didn't see Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore go up to Ta-Nehisi Coates. He said calling the notion of preliminary study a cop-out and criticizing Coates' past support of Obama. He said tweets carrying the ADOS hashtag regularly raised the possibility of supporting Trump in 2020, otherwise punishing Democrats if they don't endorse a lineage-based reparation program. Oh, so basically what you're saying is no reparations, no vote. Well, are you going to give reparations? If not, well, people have a right to sit at home and not vote. They don't have to. You're promising everybody else everything. Why can't you promise black people? Why you can't have a policy for black people? That's all. Why should they be forced to vote for you? Why? I'm just saying why. It's just a question. So interviews, they said Carnell and Moore said they oppose Trump and are not encouraging black voters to stay home and vote for him. Okay. They say they point out their central demand, a substantial new federal program to compensate for the harm of slavery, is sharply rejected by conservatives. Of course. I mean, they're going to reject that. Why would they support that? We already know that the conservatives are part of team white supremacy. And said we are both lifelong Democrats. Carnell said politics is an exchange, and we're expressing ourselves politically. For too long, people have always expected us to be the muse of the Democratic Party. Well, I can't deny that. As it's still pro-Trump actors have clearly taken note of their combative tone and begun to echo it. They say most successful conservative provocateur to spread the ADOS ideas, Ali Alexander, you know who he is, who has a habit of pointing out that people he criticizes are Jewish and whose colleague of political dirty trickster Jacob Wohl. Wohl spread a false claim earlier this year that Harris is not eligible for the presidency because of her parents' immigration status. Harris was born in Oakland. Okay, why did you bring up that man? And why are you talking about Jewish people? Nobody mentioned Jewish people with this. Why are you bringing them up? Pay attention to what they're doing here. You know what I'm saying? So it was a message by Alexander that Donald Trump Jr. retweeted this month. Kamala Harris not an American black. She's a half Indian, half Jamaican. I'm so sick of people robbing American blacks like myself about history. So I say Trump Jr., they talk about delete the tweet, put a spokesman XYZ. So here we go. The exact size and impact of ADOS is difficult to quantify. Now, all during the piece, you just said that it was tiny, it was small. Now you're saying the exact size and impact of ADOS is difficult to quantify. So that means in your piece, you lied the whole time, acting like you knew the size of it when you're admitting you don't know the size of it, right? Now, they say a digital forensic research lab at the Atlantic Council said there are more than 77,000 Twitter mentions of ADOS in 6 days after the June 27th debate in Miami, compared to the 60,000 mentions 6 days prior. They say, and YouTube rebroadcast of online ADOS radio shows by Moore and Cornell regularly get more than 25,000 views. As the ADOS organizers acknowledge that conservative provocateurs have infected their online conversation, they've called on Twitter to do more to ban aggressive accounts. In the last week and a half or 2 weeks, trolls have really started to catch on and are passing things around, Cornell said. As that for the movement's critics, the conversation has now gone beyond a legitimate debate over reparations. At this point, to put it bluntly, ADOS is weaponized, said Gregory Carr, co-chairman of African American Studies at Howard University, who has been active in the fight for reparations since the 1980s. It's so indefensibly xenophobic and nativist at this point. See, I told y'all, they're going to use xenophobia to call you xenophobic to try to get at you, right? So you got to look at these attacks and pay attention to the wording they use. Now, this guy say he's been fighting for reparations since the 80s. Stop saying you've been fighting for reparations since the 80s. You ain't done crap. That's horrible. You've been fighting for reparations, for 30 plus years at least, and you have done nothing? Stop doing that. That makes yourself look bad. So said Carr said Moore's discussion of black genealogy echoes some of the ugliest elements of white identity. Now they mentioned, Talib Kweli Green, a 43-year-old New York-based rapper. Of course, he has his issues. He said, of course, they say you know him. He's just been, he's what word I'm gonna say. I mean, to be on Twitter all day talking about ADOS instead of trying to develop other music artists and, trying to pass on to the next generation. But he's all day worrying about what Yvette Carnell says and Antonio Moore says. It says a lot about him. You get what I'm saying? I don't think people successful in the music industry worrying about what Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore are talking about. But it lets you know how much time he has on his hands, right? So, he's up here, saying she's letting her bigotry lead her into a place where she's not even concerned about the rhetoric. She's spewing right-wing bigots and racists. Okay, but she's talking about black people, though. So you can't use that same kind of line you would use if she was talking about another race of people. She's talking about black people. So black people, where we come from, we can have that discussion with other black people. And my thing is, I did a podcast once again. I told you guys in that podcast, decolonizing the mind, keeping third-party opinions out of family business. I'm not going to have too many conversations with these folks about what we discuss in our family. It ain't happening, okay? Now, that's the ADOS activists have made themselves felt on the presidential campaign trail as they demand Democrats embrace lineage-based reparations. They confronted South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg at a rally hosted Marianne Williamson on a radio show and launched fierce attacks with hashtags like Jim Crow Joe against Biden, who has said he supports efforts to combat systemic racism but has not endorsed reparations. Say the group has invited all Democratic contenders to a conference in October at Simmons College of Kentucky. So far, only self-help author Williamson has said she will attend. She has proposed establishing a reparations commission to distribute $200 million to $500 million over the 10 years. No, it was actually billion. She said it wasn't million. You need to go read that, guys. Messing that up. As the ADOS people have never been able to say we're a specific group, that we're a specific set of agenda items. Carnell said this is not about voter suppression. This is about voter expression. if they come to us and really start engaging with us, they will get higher black turnout. I hope for Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore's sake, they recorded everything that was said. I will not do an interview with no mainstream media outlet that I don't record. Because if they say one thing out of line or even just misconstrue something I say, I'm going to put that whole interview up on my YouTube page, and I'm going to let you hear exactly what was said and let you go compare the article versus what, was being said, because I know how they are. So this is the thing. My assessment is they're spooked. They're spooked. They're scared. They really feel like their world's going to end if Donald Trump wins again. That's how they feel. They feel that if Donald Trump get in, I know what it's about. They feel that, see, who is Ruth Bader Ginsburg? There you go. She was saying that she's kind of holding on to after the election to retire. That lady's tired. That lady been there long enough. She was dealing with some health issues. And they feel that if Trump get back in there, she retires, Trump put another Supreme Court justice on the bench, then they feel Roe v. Wade is going to go. They're thinking gay marriage can go. A lot of laws going to get changed, with Trump in a second term. So they really feeling that Trump getting back in there is death to them. That's how they feel politically. So expect the attacks to ramp up, Yvette and Antonio. Expect them to come hard and heavy. Expect them, if you don't watch the weakness that's in your argument, because that like I said, it is a weakness they can use against you. They're already doing it in this piece, calling you xenophobic. Pay attention to what they're doing. I know what these people do. I study them all the time. And call out the shucking and jiving all day, because we have a lot of ADOS that's shucking and jiving too. Like you say, a lot of these folks in Cobra, that's actually ADOS, but they shucking and jiving. Call everybody out. You ain't got to call them out just based off of where they from, right? But just focus on the message, focus on the reparations, saying that and it's just my opinion, guys. But I'm just saying this, I see what these people are trying to do. They already wrote one article, and it's not going to stop no time soon. As y'all keep running up on politicians and saying, what's up with reparations? Yeah, they having an issue on that, because they feel that black folks going to mess it up for them this time around. But, black people come out in droves. If you're going to give reparations, I promise you, whatever candidate in the Democratic Party get on reparations, I promise you will have 90% of the black vote or more with reparations. But you don't want to do that. Y'all scared. You watch the head of the Democratic Party, Tom Perez, like y'all scared of that word reparations. I mean, at least the Republicans will be straight up with you, say, nah, we ain't giving you no reparations. With Democrat, I don't know. What is that? I mean, I don't know how to pay for that. You don't know how to pay for that. You can't ever come up with a number to pay for that. But you sure come up with war money real quick. They have no problem coming up with war money. So it's on the Democratic Party, really. That's what I say about that. I mean, they have a choice. Either they can talk with the black community and give reparations. Like I said, they can do their study all they want. That's fine. I don't have an issue with them doing their study. But at the end of their study, checks need to be cut. So either you're going to cut checks or plan B. Well, I mean, since you don't care about us, and obviously you don't care about us because we saw the first debate, we weren't even part of the conversation. But then you want to come out here and say black women are the backbone of the Democratic Party, but you didn't even mention black people. And black women aren't stupid enough to fall for your tricks again. Because look at when you look at many black women that have been murdered and killed by the police, and where were y'all at? Democratic Party is fighting for black women. Why black women aren't having a lot of presidential candidates right now if they're the backbone of the party? Why is it we don't have more black women senators, black women Congress people if they're the backbone of the Democratic Party? Like, don't let these people fool y'all. They trying to get y'all to play the game. And y'all gonna be sitting on the bench watching everybody else playing while you just sitting there like, man, I wish I could actually get out there and play. That's what they want black people permanently. Forget that. So, we got to keep pushing the message, ladies and gentlemen. They hear it. They hear it loud and clear. They playing a lot of propaganda games, but we see right through it, ladies and gentlemen. So leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about this particular story here out of the Washington Post. It seems like the brothers and sisters' messages are being spoken, and they're changing the discourse. And understand, the Democratic Party is in fear right now. They use the word fear of what's happening with the message. So no reparations, no vote. That's really where people are at with it.